Hello and welcome to Minding the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. In Minding the Forest, we talk about sustainable forestry, how important forests are, especially to Louisiana, issues in the forest products industry, and how forests are beneficial to everyone. I'm your host, Jeff Zeringue. We have with us Buck Vandersteen, the Executive Director of the Louisiana Forestry Association. Buck, welcome.
Well, good day, Jeff, and hope everything is well. I hope you had a nice Easter holiday.
I guess the legislature is resurrecting itself for session coming up. That's the whole purpose of when we get together in April. So let's talk what's going on with the session.
Well, Monday, April the 10th, is the start of the legislative session. The governor's presentation to the legislature. This will be his final presentation to the legislature on what his agenda will be for this year, as well as his accomplishments for the last 7 years. He will be finishing up his term at the end of 2023, term limited, and we will have a whole another slate of candidates running for governor, and it's some exciting times in Louisiana.
2023 is a big election year, as you said about the governor, but every legislative seat is up on the block this year. Election is going to be held this fall. Some legislators are term limited, and so they will be either seeking other seats or just going home and resting from the last 12 years if they are term limited. So it's going to be a big election year.
Yes, sir, and that will be October the 14th. And as you say, all of the statewide elected officials are up for re-election too. Commissioner of Agriculture, Commissioner of Insurance, the governor, lieutenant governor, members of the Louisiana State Senate, Louisiana House of Representatives. So there's a bunch of possible turnovers. Those that are term limited will be either seeking an additional office or, as you say, going home and tending to other business. So it will be exciting times. And this is a great time for people also to be looking for candidates and to see who they would like to represent them over the next 4-year period. So it's everybody's game. We are the public, and we are the ones that decide the course of how Louisiana will act and how Louisiana will move forward in our economy, social issues, healthcare, education, business, economic development, forestry, agriculture, all of the things, our universities, our community technical colleges, all that will be impacted by the decisions that are made by the legislature.
In this election year, though, it is also the time for local elected officials to go to the polls. And in many cases, these officials do not have term limits, but they're just as important, especially when we think of the forestry industry and that loggers are affected by local laws, and landowners also are affected by those local elected officials as well. So folks really need to pay attention, not just on the state level, but whatever's going on in their own backyard as well.
Absolutely. You've heard the expression, all politics is local, and that's where it begins. Local officials are extremely important. They can, through regulations, through unintended actions on their part, could have a definite impact on us. So local elections probably most important.
So that's at the top of your list of things to do if you're listening today. So let's get to the session itself. We look at, you in particular look at a lot of what's going on with the upcoming bills that may have been pre-introduced or that we expect. What are some of the bills that have caught your eye so far?
Well, first off, this is a short session. It's a odd number year, so there's a 60-day legislative session. It begins April the 10th. And it must end by June the 10th. And during this 60-day period, you back off the holidays and the weekends and that, you're only talking maybe 45 or so actual legislative days that the members of the legislature will meet. Nonetheless, there are over 800 pieces of legislation that have been proposed already, and they will begin discussing them as early as this first week, beginning April the 10th. This session deals with money issues. In addition to that, each legislator is allowed 5 additional bills that they can address any issues that they want to do, trying to keep the number of pieces of legislation reasonable to handle. Primarily money issues, but state budget. Louisiana is blessed right now. It's had a surplus in state revenue. It has a bunch of federal money in the state, and our biggest concern is that we do something like we did during the Katrina years when we had such an influx of money that we basically blew it on things that were recurring, and then once the federal money went away, then we were faced with either making massive cuts or raising taxes to pay for that.
It really is a double whammy in that, yes, you have all the federal funding that comes through in all this, but you also have more spending, so higher sales taxes, things of that nature. And I guess we've used the phrase before, the embarrassment of riches. And it seems where the state is at this point. So how carefully do we tread?
Every legislator we've talked to remembers the embarrassment of riches. We don't want to fall into that trap again. And we're very pleased to see many of them saying, well, we just want this money to go to one-time projects. Infrastructure is a critical area that I hear lots of legislators talking about, putting money into our roads, our bridges, our ports, and we need to be sure in this process that the fair share of money goes out to rural areas. Yes, there's needs of new bridges in Lake Charles and Baton Rouge and port improvements down in New Orleans, but we also need roads in St. Helena Parish and Rapides Parish and Webster Parish and all over where roads and bridges have lived their useful life, and now it is time to replace them. So very critical for our logging industry, for our agricultural industry, for the oil and gas industry, all of those industries that provide the engine, the economic engine in these communities need that infrastructure investment to continue keeping people in rural areas and continuing to grow our rural economy. You know, it's exciting that all of these new sawmills that are coming into Louisiana are in rural areas. The biofuel plants that are coming are in rural areas. They all need roads to get bring the material into their facilities to do this. And boy, I'd hate to see $150 million investments not be able to get a fiber supply because the bridges to the mills are caving in and not handling the loads.
Or those bridges are causing new routes or different routes to be configured, and so it's going to cost even more to get the fiber there.
Absolutely.
So what are we looking at for helping out rural Louisiana?
Well, several legislators have looked at how severance tax collections are made in the parishes, and a couple legislators are proposing a wording that says that portion of severance tax money must go to infrastructure improvements or economic development in the parish. This we've never seen before. It's very welcome that monies that come from oil and gas, timber, other products that generate a severance tax, that some of that money goes to infrastructure and economic development in those parishes. So we'll see how that plays out in the legislature. It's not going to take money away from the parish if they have to put it in infrastructure or economic development. It might require some of these parishes to relook at their budgets and see how that money can go to infrastructure may cause them a little headache to rework their budget, so to speak. But I think all in all, it would be a balanced approach for economic development and infrastructure improvements.
That's sort of a tough balance in just getting something like that passed, I would imagine, because you have local governments that would say, well, this is our money, we should be able to spend it the way we want. Yet the intention of the severance tax was to make sure infrastructure was good enough to have transportation to and from where those resources are to where those resources are needed. So that might be a bit of a challenge for legislators and all.
And local governments certainly have challenges, everything from education, crime, courthouse, all of the things that they are required to do. But I think if you build an economy, if you build opportunities for people to go to work, I think it improves healthcare. I think it improves education. I think it improves the reduction of crime because people are working and they're feeling better about themselves. So there is that investment that needs, and that's a great opportunity for citizens in these local areas to work with their police juries and say, look, we need to do this together and make sure that our parish is growing, because Louisiana is a great place to work. Industry outside of Louisiana is looking at Louisiana for investments. This is excellent. It seems like every month or so, someone is calling our office for where can we set up a new business in Louisiana. We'd like to use all of the resource that's being developed in the state. And we're just great to entertain them and to see how we can utilize more Louisiana citizens.
It's good to get calls like that and to know that at least Louisiana now is in the spotlight and we're getting some notice.
One of the issues that we're seeing in not only Louisiana legislature but all across the country is foreign investment in our agriculture and timberlands. And several of our entities have, and this is agriculture as well as forestry, foreign investment that is needed to raise the capital to help do the things that they do. We certainly understand the sensitivity of where we're receiving capital and ownership of these our lands. So this is an interesting discussion that will occur in the Capitol on investments and how those investments need to be regulated, need to be sure that there's no undue influence on our Louisiana economy and our United States economy.
It seems as though Canada has had a long relationship with Louisiana, considering the Cajun culture and where its origins began. And so now we have Canada coming down and looking at Louisiana with great interest. We have, 3 new mills that are either from Canadian companies or a Canadian partnership. And a most recent development is the purchase of IFCO by PRT, which is a Canadian company as well. So it looks as if Canada is looking at the southeast United States and Louisiana in particular, I guess, to improve their business outlook and to use the resources that we have here respectfully and certainly responsibly.
Absolutely. Canada, Europe has investment. The Netherlands has a good bit of investment in Louisiana. China does not have much investment in Louisiana, and much of this is just investors that contribute money. The good thing about our asset is that no one can pick it up and move it. It's in Louisiana. It's not going to leave Louisiana, and it is made in Louisiana. So we'll have to see how that plays out. We've got to be careful of a knee-jerk reaction where we go too far and discouraging people to invest in our state and help us to do the things that we need to do to raise capital. So we need to watch that very closely, be very, very cautious to be vigilant, but not excessive.
What else is going on in the legislature that might be of concern or particular interest to the LFA?
Another piece of legislation that seems to be coming up every year or so, and that is public access to running water. And this is generally by recreationists, boaters, and things of that nature. And the question here is that if you own private land, yes, you don't own the water, but the water runs through the land. It's a private property issue that can I limit somebody's access to my private property and prevent them from being on the running water. Primarily down in South Louisiana where the marshlands and all have subsided and water has moved in, covered that private property. But it could affect somebody up in North Louisiana traveling down a hunting lease, some private property, and causing issues there that are not healthy for the boater or for the people that own the private property. So that's an issue that we're going to be watching closely. We can't direct the water. We can't stop the water. But if it's on private property, your access to that water should be limited by the property owner's rights. So, and Louisiana Forestry Association is dedicated to protecting private property rights. So we watch that extremely closely.
Okay, that's another thing, land rights. So that goes with the landowners. We talked about the budget and where money will be spent in hopes that some capital outlay projects to repair bridges or replace them as needed. That's hopeful. Mm-hmm. What else is on the agenda for the legislature that we can see so far?
Those are the main issues. There's a lot of, I'll call them peripheral issues. One that has come up from time to time are ballot initiatives. This would allow citizens to create a ballot initiative, kind of usurping what the legislature is doing. That can be very dangerous because your population centers can easily be swayed that it's bad to cut trees, or it's bad to process meat, or bad to harvest chickens, or it's bad to shoot feral hogs. And it would be extremely costly for rural people to defend against ballot initiatives. We elect people in the legislature to represent us, and we think that is sufficient. It's representation. It's a balanced representation. Minority as well as majority interests are represented in the legislature. The ballot initiative can be very dangerous. You see what goes on in places like California and Washington and Oregon with these ballot initiatives. It's just remarkable. It's hair-raising to see what can get on a ballot with enough money and enough people that don't have proper education. If the ballot initiative passes, we can just be expected to have to raise not only thousands of dollars, but probably millions of dollars to defend our right to practice forestry, agriculture, and natural resources. So an issue to watch very, very closely. The legislator that, of course, is proposing this is from New Orleans. So we'll have to see how that goes.
Some of that seems to be a disconnect with, I don't know if it's necessarily the rural area or natural resources in general, a lack of understanding possibly, but it seems as though more urban areas tend to lean to get a ballot initiative. And that just rolls back to our talk previously about being aware of what is coming up in this election and who's on the ballot, and asking those candidates specific questions that are of concern for all of us, individuals or even groups like in our industry or in agriculture or even oil and gas, things of that nature. You have to pay attention.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, you don't read in your local newspaper or on your cell phone about forestry issues or agricultural issues going on in the legislature. How do you stay informed on those issues? Well, reaching out to Louisiana Forestry Association, being on our webpage. We have a legislative report that we send out every week during the legislative session when issues are affecting forestry. These are available to members of the association. So stay informed, as you say, because the worst thing that can happen is something happen and we're asleep at the switch. So we need to be very, very vigilant.
Anyone who is listening and would like to receive the legislative report, they can send us an email at lfa@laforestry.com, and we'll put you on the list, and we'll get that report out to you every week. Buck, thanks very much. We appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you again in June for a wrap-up of the session just to see how everything went.
Very good.
Buck Vandersteen, Executive Director of the Louisiana Forestry Association. Buck, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Mind of the Forest, a podcast of the Louisiana Forestry Association. If you'd like to learn more about sustainable forestry, the LFA and its programs that help support landowners, loggers, and forest product manufacturers in the state, go to laforestry.com. You also can find out how you can be part of the Louisiana Forestry Association. If you have a program idea, comments, send me an email at jzeringue@laforestry.com. That's jzeringue @laforestry.com. And remember, at the Louisiana Forestry Association, we're minding the forest for you.